the buyer trespassed and did damage to this person's property, and you gave them permission to do it without the seller or my permission. So he can complete the transaction, or we can go file a police report. You choose.
Well, hello everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Adventures of a Real Estate Broker with Daniel Berger. I'm excited to have William Holder on the call this week. He is an associate broker or a broker. He's a team leader. He's a trainer. He owns a settlement company. He works in the greater Philadelphia area, including Delaware, Southern New Jersey. He is the lead of the William Holder Realty team. And thank you very much for coming on the show today.
Absolutely, Daniel. Thank you for having me.
So you got licensed in 2015. You went full time in 2012. You got licensed and you went full time in 2015, and now you're basically the leader of a team of 30, which is nuts, right? Going through the process. But tell me how you kind of went with your career, how you started as an agent. I'm assuming your love for it, and then why you wanted to attract and why other people got attracted to you, and that you're the team lead. So give me a little bit of background with that.
Sure. I think I got into real estate because I was always chasing basically being self-employed. I always had jobs, multiple jobs, but it never was always this desire to kind of control my own income. And I always knew if I worked as hard as I did for myself as I did for other people, I'd make more money. I tried other things, but on the side, but none of it really stuck. And to be quite honest, real estate really didn't stick at first. I had a full-time job. I wanted to become a real estate investor. I read Rich Dad Poor Dad, and I thought, oh, I'm going to go become a real estate investor. And the next logical step to me was to get my real estate license. So I did in 2012, and I realized very quickly you need to make money to invest in real estate, which I did not have any of. So I decided I'm gonna go try to sell some real estate on the side of my full-time job. So from 2012 through 2015, I was doing this part-time, and I had some success. I was selling a couple homes a year to friends and family. But before I went full-time, I only sold 7 homes. May of 2015, I decided I'm going to pull the trigger and go full time. I mean, I had this license. I didn't really like what I was doing at the time. I felt a ceiling there, and I decided, I like selling real estate. I enjoy the feeling it gave me, and it gave me the freedom I wanted. And I knew if I put in what I could to that, I'd make more than I was currently making at that job at the time. So I did. I quit my job and went into real estate full time. And that was the beginning of, we're in year 11 now of being a full-time agent, and the business has evolved, right? I went from a individual solo agent at first 6 months. I think I sold 7 homes and could barely pay my mortgage, but I made it happen. And then 2016, I sold 36 homes, 2017, 40, 2018, 44, hired my first assistant, 2019, jumped up to 69, 2020, 70. And at the end of 2020, I was really burnt out, really burnt out, and just working constantly. Just had my first kid about a year beforehand, and kind of like felt like I was losing purpose in what I was doing, and didn't really enjoy it. Got, everything, right? Got unhealthy, was doing the working constantly, going to bed, probably partying too much, just not living the life that I should have been living. And that's because I felt like there was really no purpose. It was just getting pretty repetitive for me. And late in that year, past client of mine, 2 of them actually at the same time reached out and said, "Hey, we're thinking about getting our real estate license. We want to join your team." And uh, I didn't have a team. I was like, "What team?" But I decided, "Hey, sure, let's figure this out." And that's how the team started.
So I think it depends on where you are in your life stages. So it's funny for me. So it's kind of, I was involved in sales and marketing for over 20 years. Been doing real estate now. I think I'm in my 11th year as well, 10 or 11 years. And so what's interesting is I like the entrepreneurial aspect of it as well, where you're where I like following you tell me what the rules of real estate are and what the game is. I'll follow it. But like the corporate structure, I was done with that as well. So it's the same thing. Well, maybe not as much as the money from the ceiling, but as much as listening to people. And so so I have, so I'm a broker. I have a brokerage, but it's really the same as you. It's a team. The only difference is because I'm the broker, I don't have to listen to anybody, right? Like, so very independent, and the people that are, so the people, my agents are basically on my team, although they're not on my team, right? So I actually did it in a way where it's not the Danny Berger team, it's Remax Prestige Properties, and everybody is an independent contractor under that structure. So
Sure.
it's similar. Just the only difference is I don't want people. I want people, my agents, to work for themselves, not under my name necessarily. And obviously, in the last year, we know that your parent company is buying my parent company. So that's a whole. So in life, things always change, right? And with the real thing for me, being a broker and trying to have my independence is it will either be the same and it will be fine. It will either be better and I like it, or it will absolutely suck and I'll get out of it. Right? Those are like, and I feel like in real estate, every day is a different day and things happen and we make choices, right? There's the fork in the road, which way are you going to go? And rather than worrying about what the road's going to be like that, 6 months from now, a year from now, 5 years, just kind of go and do, as opposed to complaining about what, that fork. Just figure it out and go one way and make your way. That's kind of what I see real estate is a little bit.
Yeah, you said a lot of important things there, and a lot of things I can definitely understand, and I feel very similar about a lot of those things. And you and I actually probably followed fairly similar paths because when I first started in real estate, I was a part-time agent with the Century 21. But when I went full-time, I moved to a Remax because I really did believe, and I still do believe, that Remax is the best brand for solo, high-producing entrepreneurial agents. And I do think it gave me that seat. And I was with Remax until last year. We actually, about 4 years ago, my my broker owners at the time at our Remax, who owned their Remax for 40 years, asked me to partner with them and help them grow the Remax. And so I was a broker owner for 3 years, which I don't envy you. I did it. I didn't love the risk aspect of it. And I do feel like there's one thing I always go back to with my real estate career and really anything I've done is that I do it at a high level when I feel like I'm helping people. My job prior to real estate was I was working at a credit union. I helped people get better loans than they were in and, get better accounts. And I really liked it because I really felt like what I had to sell was easy, right? It was things people actually needed. When I moved to real estate, I really liked it because I was helping people, my friends, my family members, random people I was meeting from door knocking and open houses and leads and showing them how to become homeowners. And I really liked it. And when I got kind of burnt out, I felt like it was getting very repetitive. And when I started the team, then I was able to help agents, people that had never made six figures make six figures. And to me, that was like my new dose of endorphins, right? It's like, this is how I'm going to get the excitement out of this. Like I continue to help people and then push that envelope. When I did the brokerage, I really didn't feel that way anymore. I honestly, and it wasn't for me, right? I get it. It can be very profitable if you do it right. It just wasn't for me. I felt like I was just absorbing the risk of all of the problems. And the reason we pivoted to the real model is because there is that downline aspect where even if you're on my team, but you decide to branch off and be your own, I can still help you because there's still a financial obligation. There's still finances to be made. Similar to with agents that come in, it's not just on our team now. They can be part of our office, part of our downline, and I still have an obligation to them because they can make me money, right? I think you're gonna really like. I've been with Real now a year, and they don't impede on anything I'm doing. They let me operate the same way I was able to operate as a Remax agent and a broker, and I think you're gonna really like that. From what I've seen so far, I think you're gonna like it a lot.
I mean, for me though, I have a franchise agreement, and that franchise agreement, I don't think changes much. Whoever
Yeah,
owns that, right? I have to follow the franchise rule. Whoever is the owner. So, the- you know, so I like mentoring, which is what you're doing as well, and I'm able to mentor the people. I don't know, the. not a big downline. There's a lot of things that so you'll laugh. So last year I did 55 transactions for 40 million. That's what I did. The team did,
Yeah.
I think, 155 transactions for 90 million. How many transaction coordinators do you think I have?
Two?
Zero.
Oh, okay.
Zero. I have
Okay.
no full-time employees, no transaction coordinators. I do my own memos. I do my invoicing. Yesterday, I drove up to one of my houses that I'm closing tomorrow, and I took the sign off the lawn. I traded out the lock boxes to have one that somebody could, pull it out and take it to the closing. I have three closings tomorrow. It's so sometimes it's scaling for the sake of scaling isn't something that you want. So it's kind of like what you said. I agree 100% what you said. It's about the endorphin that we get of helping people. That is what drives me because ultimately, because we're not selling. I am not. I've sold before. I've sold insecticides and herbicides in Sioux Falls, South Dakota. Although I would argue that the farmers needed it, right? So it wasn't really a. It was just giving them things that they needed and make sure that the products that you had were proper for the crops and the weeds and the things. I sold bottled water where people are like, "Why would we pay for water? We can get it for free." Well, it was the big bottles for offices, and then we started out with the small bottles, and then I moved to coffee, and I was the original K cup manager for K cup. And people are like, well, why would we spend 50 cents a cup of coffee? We can get it for 8 cents a cup. Well, it's convenient, whatever. So maybe a little bit more selling. But again, those are fulfilling needs. And we're fulfilling needs of people that need to buy, sell, or rent and or invest and what have you. And so it's really just understanding what our clients' needs are and then finding situations that help them. Or if we're representing a buyer, if they're getting into something that's in over their head or not what they want, tell them to back. This is not right for them. We'll find you the right thing. So it's not really selling. Like I love the shows, Million Dollar Listing and Selling Sunset and all of them. They're fun. They're sexy. They're fun. They're not real. They're staged, fun
No,
uh, uh,
yeah.
television
I
programming about real estate. But
I feel the same way. I have like clients who will, they'll say like, "Don't you watch those shows?" And I'm like, "Well, what do you do?" And they're like, "Yeah, I'm a dental assistant." I'm like, "You go home and watch dentists do procedures?" And they're like, "No." And I'm like, "Exactly. I don't. I'm not gonna go home and watch what I do." But it's different, and it's very different. We're not. I agree. We're not selling, and I don't have to sell anything to like. This is a necessity. It's actually one of the biggest reasons, one of the reasons I burnt out in 2020 and like didn't enjoy it is because they told me I couldn't sell like housing to me, which was insane, right? Like that's a necessity. I had people that were going through life situations that I couldn't go out in our state, at least couldn't go out and show homes. And, I was very frustrated with that. And we found a way around it. It wasn't long, it didn't last long, thankfully, but there were agents and brokerages in our area getting fined. And I'm like, this is insane. Like this is what's more needed than housing and food, you know?
see,
Um,
those are the ones that I never shut down because there were ways if you read what the ruling were, and while you couldn't show something, your buyers were allowed to go into the houses, right? So, like an example would be, I wouldn't go in their cars. We would drive separately. I would stop outside. They would go into the house. I wasn't allowed in the house. I think if it was an empty house, maybe, or with masks or whatever. But and then listings, people asked me to sell. I said, great, you're going to run the open house. You're going to be home. Someone's going to come in. Everyone's going to be masked up. So I actually always found a way to keep. I didn't let up because I so that's the reason why I love the entrepreneurial spirit where like in some brokerages the broker laid down the law saying you can't do this or you can't do that. I'm like, well, that's not actually what the rule says. And there were, so there was always a way to do it. And I was very creative and clearly following what the laws were. The laws changed a lot, but you just, tell me that was my whole point. Tell me what the rule is and I'll figure it out. And so I actually, you know, was able to keep helping people during that time, take listings and get things done. So
I think we have very similar mindsets. For me, Pennsylvania was very strict. Delaware was fairly loose with it. So I was driving across the border every day, and like I just built my Delaware business around that time. But I still found ways to make it work and legally without anybody getting hurt. That was important. But for me, that was big. And like you said, that was my 2020 was my biggest year as an individual agent. It was my last year as an individual agent because I found a way to make it work, right, during a really, really hard time. And that's the nice part about what we do. And I know you mentioned you don't have any transaction coordinators. And again, I think that's like, phases of life thing. 2019, I had my first daughter, and my wife decided to stay home from work after, she was a teacher. And the decision I made was, well, how do I keep this going when I don't want to lose that time. So I did hire someone, and what I've found is probably in 15 years, like I have two daughters now, probably in 15 years, 16 years, I will probably have a lot more time on my hands and can do more. But it's nice right now when I'm not the one, no one on our team is the one putting up the signs, the lock boxes, doing the write-ups, like all of the legwork when like we can still have that time we need in our lives right now. Doesn't mean I'm gonna need that forever, but right now it's important. And that's the nice thing about real estate. You get to build the business you want, right? Like your business changes, it ebbs and flows and with your life. And that's something you're an example of. I think people something you touched on, which is really honest, and it's not something people are very honest about, is teams aren't all they're built up to be, right? Like you really should be aware of what you want to be. I tell a lot of people you'd be better off just being a high performing individual agent with maybe one showing agent or an assistant, or just be a high performing individual agent. You could still have the brokerage and do really well. And those margins are excellent. They're much bigger than running a team with staff and with agents you have to follow. It hurts your production and it takes away from your income until the team starts paying the bills. And most people aren't willing to admit that. And I'll admit it, for 3 of the 5 years I've had the team, my income paid the bills until it got back to the point that we were able to get profitable. The team will start to take over the responsibility of the bills. And if you're not willing to stomach that and still be a good leader and still, not let that income hit affect your emotions and the way you run your business and the way you treat people, then don't run a team. Don't start one, you know?
I find that the agents in my office, we work, we're all independent contractors and independent agents, but we help each other. So so I'm very good at being the broker when I need a showing. Maybe I'm out of town or I'm at an open house and somebody has to see something. I will pay my agents, I'm saying who wants to show, who's available to show these three houses to this client. So I'm like wherever I am around the world, it doesn't matter because so I generally will show, but if I'm not available, I'll have someone else show and I'll pay them and I pay them a decent amount. Like generally 75 to $100 a showing. It depends on how many hours it is, how many. If it's one, I'm generally not giving someone $50 to spend 2 hours to drive there, whatever. So my I want to be more than generous, right? Because um, I want people to always say, sure, I'll do yours, right? Because they'll do mine because they're making good money and it's very fair, right? So clearly much more than minimum wage, but so they don't need to be on my team to do that. And I have and so other agents in my office see that that's how I do it, and I always tell them you're an independent contractor. So if someone else is showing for you, the two of you decide what you're paying each other, right? And sometimes people are like, you don't have to pay me because you do it for me. And so I don't have rules as to what anything should be because they should do what's fair for each of them. So that's it's similar to a team,
Yeah,
but it's less regimented.
you're running like a Team Ridge model, and
Exactly.
and that's definitely a model that works great. I think I run our team fairly similarly in that I tell all of our agents, look, I'm not your boss. I'm not, you're an independent contractor, right? I have staff that I am responsible for, but you're an independent contractor. Now, do we have standards like any company would? Sure. But at the end of the day, you need to negotiate for yourself. You need to understand what your walk away is. You need to understand and hold yourself responsible and negotiate with other agents. That, and I think if you're not okay doing that, you're probably in the wrong career to begin with, right? Like that's what we do. So, if you're not comfortable doing that, then do something else. But I'm not your boss, even on a team. I'm not your boss, right? And I think a lot of brokerages and teams have gotten in trouble for that in the past because, when you start making things mandatory and start making things required, you're talking about employees, not independent contractors. And that,
Which
you
is
know,
right, which is why I have zero employees, because when you have employee number one, the laws change dramatically, right? So that's why I
yeah,
have nobody, because
yeah,
it's very simple to say there I have no employees, right? No,
yeah,
I don't do that. So do I have, like, I have a lead manager, but it's an independent contractor based, like, it's like a marketing company. She's, that person's basically doing the job, and I don't tell her what to do. I don't tell her when to do it. I mean, the what to do might be taking the leads and parsing them out, but when it's done, it's not. I don't say when to do it, so so I'm very, like, again, tell me what the rules are, and I'll follow the rules. But the one thing I always say is it's not what you make, it's what you keep, right? So when you talked about people, 6-figure people or 7-figure people, whatever the number is going to be, a lot of people are very showy, right? Where they're like, this is, they make it, but then they have all these back end costs, and you're not taking that home. So again, everyone has to be the person that they want to be and run the business that is comfortable for them. That's what's great about our business, right? Is that people can do that. So some people like having multiple transaction coordinators, or they want other people to do stuff for you. The other thing I'll preface is that every state is different. And so in a state where you're prepping all the contracts and you're doing escrow and all that, that is much more cumbersome and much harder to to manage. So I'm not in one of those states. I'm licensed in New York and Connecticut. Neither are those, right? So it means that I'm not worried about the money flowing in. It goes into lawyers' escrow accounts. I don't have to do title work. That's done by lawyers, right? So it's different. So because of it's different, I've created my business based off of what my business flow model, right?
sure.
In a different market, I would have to have people that, would manage those, because there's a lot of dates that are important, and if you miss your dates, you're hurting your client. I don't really have that. So I
That's
just
very
happen
different.
to be something where it's a little different. So I've created what's best for me and my agents based off of the marketplace that we're in.
That's very different for sure. Like we're Pennsylvania, New Jersey, Delaware, and uh, New Jersey is an attorney state. However, Southern Jersey kind of operates like Pennsylvania, whereas Northern Jersey operates more like like New York. I've had a few transactions with Northern Jersey agents where it's very much like that. They want the attorney handling everything, right? And we're used to handling everything. Like we in Pennsylvania, Southern Jersey, even Delaware that doesn't have title companies, they have attorneys, but the agent handles everything. So we do have to have systems and processes in place so that my new agents and everyone coming up aren't making mistakes because at the end of the day, and that was another, tribute of being a broker owner, I was responsible for all of that. And I still am to a certain extent, but not as liable. I don't have to pay the ownership of the E&O policy. So that to me it is a difference there for sure. I do also like, I guess through my life, I've learned that I do like a level of control that maybe some people don't like. And I've found that in every aspect of my life. And with the way I'm building the team and the brand, and one thing I do regret is naming it the William Holder Realty Team. I should have given it a more generic name so that I could build but I am tied to it now. And not that I can't change it, it just seems like a heavy lift. But in terms of the control of it and how the paperwork works and how the timelines are hit and how my agents follow up. I like to have that control. I like to have my finger on the pulse of all of that, how our marketing runs. I'm in those meetings. I'm very involved in all of that because I want to make sure it's going the way I see it. So, having the employees, the staff, to me, that's my version of business that I would build, right? And that's why I built it that way. Yours is different. Everyone's is different, but that's kind of why I've taken on more staff than maybe most because I want to know it's working a certain way.
Right. I have I have no meetings in the 10 years that I've been doing this. No me I don't we don't have meetings. It's not a thing. There is an office because I legally need to have an office, but I'm never in my office. I do have two closings in my office today and three tomorrow because that's other people. The lawyers are saying, "Can I use your office?" I'm like, "Yeah, I'm not there." So, but I think what's interesting is again, being a also I started at 47, I'm 57 now, so it's I was a different phase in my life to do that. You talk about being boring and that things were getting in a rut. I That is not how it is, so much so that last year I wrote a book because I wasn't busy enough, so I wrote a book, The Adventures of a Real Estate Broker. So unlike the reality TV, this is actually real because this is stories that happened to me along the way, and it's a fun little thing. I've actually My book launch was a party in my backyard that I had like 150 clients there, and people were like going through the book. I'm chapter 5, I'm chapter 7. We It was a nice
I love that.
barbecue. Yeah, so it was kind of just crazy things that have happened. What Give me an example. This is the Adventures of a Real Estate Broker. What Give me an example of something really crazy or nutty that has happened to you, that you still remember, of in a transaction.
I mean, I like you, I could probably write a book, right? But I mean, I would say one recently we were the listing side, and the it was a house in a town nearby, Harleysville. Nice property, 550, but a fixer-upper needed a good amount of work. Buyer purchased it as is with their agent. We're like about 2 weeks out from closing. We get a call from the agent that the buyer doesn't want to proceed with the transaction. And there wasn't a real reason behind it. It's not like his mortgage was falling through. It's not like anything like that. So, my initial response is have a conversation with the seller, advise the seller on their legal standing and have them speak to an attorney. On the way, my agent, who was the co-listing agent on the transaction that afternoon on the way home, decided to stop by and take the sold rider off because we kind of figured this was going back on the market. And he noticed one of the windows was boarded up. And the property needed some work, but it wasn't boarded up. So he went inside and there was drywall pulled down, there was windows pulled out, the flooring was taken up, and he like significant work started. So he called the seller who lived in Michigan, and said, "Hey, have you been over here? Has your handyman been over here doing any kind of work?" He said no. But then he emailed the buyer's agent just to ask him because he was on his way home, and the buyer's agent responded and said, "Yeah, actually, my client went in and started
Why would
doing
they?
things."
I can't even. A,
Like,
why would you
what?
do that? That's trespass. And then why would they even admit to that? I mean, I'm glad that the guy, at least he was dishonest in doing it, but at least he was honest in saying that. Wow, that's
Well, that was
and then
even
then you're trying to cancel the transaction.
yeah, and even worse. So my agent forwarded it to me, so I responded and said, "Hey, how did he get in?" And the agent said in writing, well, one day he asked me for the lockbox code, so I gave it to him because he wanted to stop by with his contractor. And in writing, all in writing.
Right.
And I am just like floored at this point.
Apoplectic. I'd be
Yeah.
apoplectic.
And so, the buyer hired an attorney and his attorney reached out to us and my seller's like, should I hire an attorney? I'm like, probably, but give me a second. So I responded to everyone on this email chain and I said, "Hey, like I appreciate the honesty here, but at the end of the day, the buyer trespassed and did damage to this person's property, and you gave them permission to do it without the seller or my permission. So he can complete the transaction, or we can go file a police report. You choose,
Or, or,
right?"
or I would have said, we're going to sue you for we're going to keep your deposit. We're going to sue you for trespass, and then we're going to sue you for all the damage that you did, and we're going to sell to somebody else.
Yeah, and that was an option too. And I said we can go that route, but personally, I'm like, this doesn't make any sense. Like, why are you blowing this up after doing all of this? And, I didn't want my client wasting money on an attorney yet when I knew
Right.
like we had all the leverage. So guess what? They closed 2 weeks later, and it's in the past, right?
I'm
But you
surprised
know,
you didn't. You should have really brought up that agent should have been brought up to the board, because how are you going
yes,
to ever learn if that
I
was, or make that person pay a penalty? I would have been more aggressive at the agent, because they caused at least 2 more weeks of not closing, and I would have charged him taxes and other fees. I would have charged them a penalty, because they were dead to rights. And that's how you learn, right? So there are bad act. We have Not everyone's as good as you and I, William, and that is horrible. And the funny thing is, why was the window even boarded up?
he ripped the window out and decided to board it up because he was going to replace windows before he owned the property, which is
Wow.
wild. And
I would have been more apoplectic on that, because it could have turned into a horrible thing, right?
I mean, that's not even one of the worst ones. This one I can recommend, or I can think
Wow.
of recently. But these things, we see all sorts of crazy stuff, and people kind of go off and do random things. And look, I'm not innocent. Early in my career. I've definitely made mistakes, but I've never been reported, thankfully. And any of the ones I did mistake, whatever mistake I ever made, I paid for. I can tell you that. But I think in general, our goal is to get what our client wants, and that seller wanted to get to the table. So we
Right.
helped him get there, right? If he was pounding a book and say, "Hey, we got to report this person," and I want this and this and this, and I would have done it for him. I'm also really busy, so I'm always like, man, do I want to tie myself
You know
up
what?
with?
I felt like in that case, because again, your client had so much risk of if someone got hurt doing right there. I would have made them donate $5,000 to charity. Pick a charity, make the broker pay
Yeah,
as a charity. So then you're helping everyone. Help, the soup kitchen, a local soup kitchen or something like that. Like, now thinking about it, I would have wanted somebody to have to learn what they did was so egregious, and help something good. Right. So that would have been closing,
I
of
like that.
course, but then that would have been a way that everybody would have learned, and then it would have been good for the community. But yes, that is absolutely that's a good story. You do. By the way, you should write your book, because everyone says they're going to write one and they don't. And so for me, I can say, here's my book, right? I have and I actually give it out to clients as well, so they like it. But it shows that you can get things done, right? So it's less about like what's in the book, although I think it's actually pretty good. But it's about finishing, right? Finishing the task. So when people are like, "Well, why should I pick you to be my agent, or why should I, sell my house?" Because I get things done. But yeah, so that's crazy. What with having a team of 30, and being active and all that other stuff, where are you with like new technology with AI? How are you currently using it, and how do you feel that it's going to be implemented on the William Holder Realty team going forward?
We're using it fairly heavily, but responsibly. I get the question, I'm sure you get it from your agents, is AI going to take our jobs, right? And haven't been like yourself, haven't been in real estate that long, but I was in banking in 2008 when the housing market crashed. I got my real estate license in 2012 when real estate was much slower, and I watched the Zillows take over, and all of these different things happen. New brokerages come in, companies go in and out. I haven't been doing this for decades, but I probably can say I've seen 20 years of real estate now as an adult. And from what I've seen, realtors, in my opinion, are extremely important when it comes to the transaction. I mean, who can navigate the things? You have a book of unique situations that you dealt with on transactions. What AI is going to figure that out and solve that problem anytime soon? Maybe in the future, but right now, and at least for the foreseeable future, I think real estate agents are super important, and I don't see us going anywhere. But I do see us, if you're not getting on the AI train, you're going to be left at the station, right? And the people that are very against it, fine, you can still run a business, but people that are using it are going to implement it in a way that they can multiply their production without doing more physical work, right? And someone like yourself that likes to do a lot of things for yourself. Like you don't have a physical assistant, you don't have things like that. When AI is sorting your emails for you, going through your database, like telling you who you need to call, like we're using Claude plugged into to Follow Up Boss. We use Maverick AI for scripting. We also use it for agent nudging. I don't have to have a sales manager because it's all done by AI, right? And it gives me a nice clean report, and I pay pennies on the dollar as to what a sales manager would cost me. So I'm able to be the sales manager for my team whilst being in production, whilst, running our other businesses and not be overwhelmed because AI is plugged into our systems and doing that for us. And I'm not saying sales managers aren't important. It's just something I didn't want to have the expense of, right? So we're using it in one to be a sales manager. Two, a lot of our marketing is not we use AI to create it, but I even ran an AI page where it was like my AI avatar for a while, and we use that in some of our marketing to take work off of my plate. So our marketing is AI driven as well. I mean, that's just some of the things we're doing, but a lot of what we're doing does involve some of these AI platforms, and we're just kind of getting started.
Right. So my view is an agent that's worried about AI taking over. AI is going to take over if you're not a good agent, right? Because most of the good things that everything that you talked about is about us, the interacting with our clients and being there for them. So if it was easy to just walk through a house and then buy the house, then it would be automatic. It would generate a passcode. You would have eye recognition. You would know who's coming into the house. They'd be great. That's a buyer. We have your license. Go into the house, no problem. You wouldn't have to be there, but you're there with your buyer, walking through the house, telling them what issues are before you even put the offer in, before you have the inspection, and then when things happen where somebody breaks into your house and starts renovations, that's a people person conversation. So it's those things, right, that someone's going to back up, especially when these are, some of the biggest purchases of our clients' lives, buying and selling and how important they are. I'm not worried about it. I'm also, when the older you get, the closer you are to retirement, or if I'm ever going to retire, if I'm having too much fun, I won't need to. So I don't use AI from anything to that. I don't, you know, clearly if you're writing a listing, it's certainly simple to give in what the house is and then work with AI to wordsmith or whatever. But that's the most basic thing. That's like an editor type of thing.
We're using
My
it.
view is I don't want AI. Someone's texting me and I don't want a bot. I don't want my bot talking to their bot. I want to be the person. But again, it also depends on what market you're in, right? Because if you're in a market that has $200,000 as the average price and mine's 700,000, I can do less houses and make a good income than things that are less, right? Or if you're,
Mhm.
so there is, at some point, and I would also argue, so if I did over 1 million last year, 1.1 in GCI, how much is enough, right?
Mhm.
Do I need to make 2 million? Do I need to make 5 million? I mean, at some point, my answer is no, I don't need to. Or, and so I'm not necessarily scaling, I'm just trying to be good, right? But everyone's different, everyone's in a different situation. But where I do use AI is, for me, when people are now asking Claude or Chat GPT, they're asking their telephone, who's the best agent in the greater Philadelphia area, you want them to come up with the William Holder Realty team. And so it's interesting as I've had clients and friends and family do it in my marketplace and my name comes up. And they were like, so I'm like, and then from my podcast, I started real. I had somebody that was basically marketing for AI, and I had them. I'm like, this is a good idea, and so I started investing. I invest like $600 a month in writing articles that then get pushed out because really AI is really a Google search on steroids, right? So the more things that you have that are out there that are about you, that are written by you, those are things that are going to get picked up. So someone's like, well, why are you doing it? You're already on the top of the list. I go, because I want to keep being on the top of the list. And so I think everyone needs to see how is technology working and then how to kind of do it from there to work for you. So certainly using it in a way, but you're doing it also because you have 30 people. I don't have, so I like that you see what technology is out there and you adapt technology to make your life better, not to necessarily take responsibility away from things that are important, but is to clean up the things that are less important that can summarize things for you so that you can be a more impactful leader. So I give you kudos for seeing what's out there and then trying to become a better manager without a manager for your team.
Yeah, I think I have our agents ask us these, and I'll be 39 in August. I started in real estate when I was 28. But I've heard from agents like yourself, agents who've done this for 40 years. My partners have done this for 40 plus years. Coaches that have been around since before them. Everything is about communication with your clients. Everything. And if you're trying to sidestep that with AI, you're looking at this wrong. AI isn't here to do the important task, which is your job, which is to talk to your clients, right? Contacts equals contracts. Like you're talking to clients, you're following up with your database, you're calling your leads. If you're heavily relying on that, on AI to do that, you're not going to run a successful real estate business, in my opinion. Now, there might be examples of that out there, but I'm in the relationship business. Everything I teach my agents is how to build a database that knows you, likes you, and trusts you, and you can live off of with them for the rest of your life. And if you're relying on AI to do that, where's that relationship come in? Most of my top clients who will refer me 5 people this year, and anyone that talks about real estate, they started as leads. I didn't know them before I got into real estate, and I just earned their trust and I proved to them that I can be that guy. And then we became friends and I followed up, and then our families are hanging out together. And I've built these relationships that I wouldn't have had because before this industry, which is amazing. And now these people are some of my best friends, and I now don't have to work leads, right? My business is fairly easy because it's automatic. I know what I have to do. I know who I have to talk to, and I know what our marketing is in place. So I still sell a home every week. That's not hard for me to do because those people are calling me to work with me. I'm not trying to earn that business. I'm teaching our agents to build that business from the leads and databases and the tools I'm giving them. And expecting AI to create that relationship for you is short-sighted, right? You're too transactional. You need to look at this business like you're looking at it, and like most successful agents are looking at it, is that this is a lifetime relationship. I'm not going to expect a computer to build that for me, but using it in systems marketing to help yourself be more noticeable, get more done, and potentially sell more homes. There's nothing wrong with that. That's actually the way you should be using it.
Exactly. Well, William, we could talk for hours. I love how you run your business. It's you're doing a great job in the greater Philly area, Delaware, Southern New Jersey. Your team's lucky to have you. They just have to follow your lead and and they will do well. But it's all about relationship building, talking to your people. The longer that you've been doing it, like you said, you have that database of people that are asking you for help because they trust you and they know that you're not selling them anything. You're guiding them in the things that they want. And that's what it's all about. That's going to keep us, you're 20 years younger, but that's going to keep you getting to my age and then 20 years past that being successful. So I applaud you for things that you're doing. It was great conversation. I thank you for coming on, and just want to let everyone know it's the Adventures of a Real Estate Broker with Daniel Berger. Thank you for joining us this week, and William Holder of the William Holder Realty Team. Thank you very much.
Awesome. Thank you for having me.
If today's stories opened your eyes, wait till you see what's next. Hit the video on screen to join the next adventure with Daniel Berger.